Hello there, I'm Chris Kallal with Advanced Agrilytics, and I want to take a quick minute to talk to you about crown rot in corn, primarily because I've been getting some questions lately around what is our risk for having the disease this year, but secondly, what might we be able to do to help mitigate it, especially as we start to think about making some post-herbicide applications in corn. So let's talk a little bit about what crown rot is. Crown rot is essentially the deterioration of the crown of a corn plant, which is where all the roots come into that plant. And that's where all the water and nutrients that those roots are going to uptake have all got to move through that crown and up into the plant. And so when that crown starts to deteriorate in that corn plant, that starts to restrict and could potentially shut down all movement of water and nutrients into that plant. And ultimately we end up with some stalk cannibalization. We might end up with some late season standability issues, and we could also have some yield loss because of that. So I talked a second ago about because of the environment we just went through. So let's think about late April and early May. We were cool and we were wet. That is ideal conditions for the infection to take place. So we had a very conducive environment for the infection to happen. But whether or not we have the disease and to what severity is really dependent upon how much stress a corn plant endures during grain fill. And that stress can come from a lot of different things. That stress might come from disease, whether that's maybe gray leaf spot or southern rust or even tar spot. That stress might be from nutrient deficiencies. That stress might be because we've overpopulated a certain area, and that interplant competition is a stress on a plant. That stress might be just environmental conditions we're going through, whether that's hot nights where that plant can't rest at night and we end up expending energy during the night that we should have been saving during the day. So there's a lot of different stresses that can happen on a corn plant, and those are just some of the main ones that I think about that could come into play when I think about how much stress that plant's going to go through during grain fill. So now, what can we do to mitigate it? As we start to think about making post-herbicide applications on cornfields like this one, we could think about throwing a fungicide application in for that V5, V6 herbicide application. And I have done some research that would say it does help reduce the amount of crown rot, but it is very minimal. Now, the ROI on it is generally very good because we're already out there making a herbicide application, so that fungicide gets a free ride, if you will, with that herbicide. So I generally encourage guys to do it because it can help reduce crown rot, but the ROI on it is pretty good. But truly the biggest lever we have to pull to mitigate crown rot is using fungicide applications during VT-R1 and on into further reproductive stages of that corn plant. And why do I say that? Because those fungicide applications are going to help reduce stress on that plant during grain fill. It's not because that fungicide application has efficacy against crown rot. Those fungicides are going to help reduce the amount of disease we have. Those fungicides are going to help mitigate the environmental stresses that we might be under. And so by helping to alleviate that stress on the corn plant, we can alleviate or minimize how much crown rot we might have. So that's the biggest lever we might have to pull today. The other option, as I think about some of the things I've learned here now after joining Advanced Agrilytics, is that Advanced Agrilytics has proven that by making a fungicide application on, say, V10 corn, we can help increase the amount of sucrose that plant produces prior to tassel. And I start to think about that as, hey, maybe that's a great way to help mitigate some of the risk of crown rot, because if I can really drive sucrose production pre-tassel, that means I'm going into grain fill with more sucrose in the tank, if you will, to be able to utilize in case I come under stress during grain fill. So that might too be another tactic that we could deploy to help mitigate crown rot. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out, and thanks for your time.